Hello, welcome back to the Off-Grid family. Today I'm going to be making something I really love to make, which is beef jerky. There was more of this. I'm recording this intro after I made it, and it's been a couple of days, and yeah, it doesn't ever last long. This is very simple to do, and I'm just going to talk you through the whole process, and hopefully you'll end up with enough nice beef jerky that you can hide, because my kids love this stuff as well, and I've only had a few bits. Before we start, I'd just like to thank my Patreons. You guys are awesome, and everything you've done for the channel is so amazing. I really do appreciate it. If you'd like to join them, all the links are in the description. Anyway, let's get on. Okay, so here's the chunk of meat I'm using, and it cost me £17.30p. And I choose meats and such just for various things. This wasn't chosen just for beef jerky. I chose this because I'm going to have some beef with my food as well. Now, I'm just looking at the grain, which is going this way. Now, this has got a huge layer of fat across the top, which you obviously don't want in beef jerky, and if you didn't know that, I will explain. And you also want to cut against the grain. So I'm thinking, if I cut... I'll make sure you've sharpened your knife. Okay, so that bit's going to be for my tea. This bit's going to be for our jerky. And the first thing we're going to want to do is put this in the freezer for about half an hour. So just find a bag to shove it in, or put it in a bit of saran wrap, cling film, etc. And as I say, half an hour in the freezer. Okay, while we're waiting for the beef to cool down a bit, the reason we've put it in the freezer is it actually allows us to cut it into much thinner strips. We're going to make the marinade, and I'm doing my version of marinade, but there's loads of other things you can add. I'm adding Worcestershire sauce. I don't know why you guys can't say it. The Americans have such trouble. Worcestershire sauce, easy as. Black pepper, chili powder, cayenne, onion granules, garlic granules, and some soy sauce. And I'm just going to add that in the quantities I want. Now, you can add honey, you can add so much other things. You can make it as hot as you like, you can make it as sweet as you like. But this is what I'm going with. So, in our bowl, we'll add the wet ingredients first. We're also not doing tons and tons of beef, so we shouldn't need too much of this. That's the Worcestershire sauce done. I might add some more in a bit, but we'll see. We'll see how much this makes up. That's our soy sauce. This is dark soy. It's all I had in the cupboard, or all I could be bothered to find. I've probably got more. I just couldn't be bothered to look. Add a bit more Worcestershire sauce. Hello. Now, all of these amounts are just based on what I'm putting in. I'm not checking it for how much, etc. That's our onion granules. And you can easily put your finger in, have a taste, and if you like the taste of that, then, you know, it's going to be a bit strong because this is a marinade, obviously. That was a garlic. But you'll be able to get an idea of how hot it is, or how, you know, sweet, etc. And then you can add to taste. That's the cayenne. That's the chili powder, and that one's really hot. I don't know why it's so hot, but I've bought that a few times in the past and it was fine, but that one is quite thermonuclear. And then this is just a bit of black pepper. I'm not going to add salt because there's enough salt in the soy sauce, and we're going to mix that up. I think I'm going to add a little bit more Worcestershire sauce. Was there any left? I can't even remember already. Yeah, a little bit. I think I need to find some more soy sauce actually. So the balance will be slightly off because of the amount of Worcestershire sauce. I'm saying as much as I can so you guys can learn. This is a public announcement. That'll do. Well, that's annoying. There is no more soy sauce. I used it when I made this egg fried rice the other day. So that's that. So a little taste. A little bit more pepper. And what else? It's missing something. I think it's the onion. I don't think there's enough onion. That'll do. Okay, now we just wait for the beef. Okay, so it's been half an hour, and like the idiot I am, I forgot to take the fat off. So I may end up putting it in the freezer again for a little bit, just to make sure it's cool enough and, you know, it's easy enough to slice into the parts we need. So I'm going to take the fat off. None of this is going to waste. So you might think I'm being a bit generous by leaving a bit of meat on there as well. But this will actually be cooked up later. I'm actually going to cut all that off as well. Yeah, nothing goes to waste here, don't you worry. Try not to handle it that much so it doesn't lose a lot of the coldness. Right. So now what we want to do is we want to cut along against the grain of the meat. And the grain is running this way. So what we're going to do, after I've got rid of this bit, is we're going to start cutting. Oh, there's more there as well. Might as well do it right. Now, sometimes I'm pretty good at cutting meat into nice thin slices, and sometimes I'm not. And because I'm doing this on video, I guarantee I am not. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plonk it like this. And the idea is to get very, very, very thin slices of meat. The thinner the better, because it will dry out much, much quicker. I'm cutting with the grain like an idiot. That's right. What an idiot. Right. The reason you try not to cut along the grain is because it makes the beef chewier. That one's going to be thick as hell. I might end up having to cut this again, actually. I don't want big pieces because my because my dehydrator's round. The smaller the pieces, the better for me, because it allows me to place more on. That's better. Yeah, I think I finished my sentence, but slicing against the grain gives you a nicer, less chewy jerky, but you can cut along the grain and it just gives it a bit more bite. I also think, now this could be completely wrong, I can't remember where I heard it, that cutting against the grain allows more marinade to penetrate, but that could be just a fiction that I've made up somewhere along the way. By the way, the marinade is smelling amazing. I came back in here, I had about 10 more minutes left after doing the actual marinade, and the whole kitchen now smells of the marinade. It's really nice. Again, make sure you've got yourself a really nice sharp knife. I probably can make these a little bit thinner, but I'm not going to because I don't want to have such different sizes now. Right, I will be back once I've cut all these. Right, as I say, none of this is going to waste. This will all be part of my tea tonight. Okay, the very next thing we're going to do is plonk all of the beef in the marinade, and we are putting it in one at a time because we want every single piece to be, coated perfectly. Only just enough marinade, but that'll do. I would have made more had I had enough, any more soy sauce, but that'll do. Now what I'm going to do is put this in the fridge covered for about 4 hours, but I will, because there's not very much marinade, I will come back and I will give it a little massage every probably hour, just to make sure it's all still completely coated. You can leave this as long as you like. I prefer about 4 or 5 hours. Personally, but it's up to you. If you like it really, really strong, leave it for longer. But I have heard from some people saying that leaving it longer doesn't actually change the flavour in a good way, but I don't know. I personally, I do it for about 4 or 5 hours. Okay, so we're all laid out now, and it's been about, it's about 4.5 hours, I think. What I've done here is I've got a few layers of kitchen roll on a tray. Got a few more layers of kitchen roll, because what we want to do is we want to absorb all of the juices that are on it. We only want the stuff that's actually penetrated the skin, the meat, to stay in there, because we want it as dry as possible when we decide to start to dehydrate it. And you'll want to lay it out as flat as you can, because you want to get as much of the moisture off as possible. As I say, there are a few bits that were quite a lot thicker than they should have been. Such is life. Now, I wouldn't normally have doubled it up like that, but I thought to myself, just for the sake of the video, making it easier, not having to move backwards and forwards, I'll do it that way. Okay, now we'll unwrap this. I'll take this layer off, and then I'm going to pat it dry again. And that's what you want it like. You want it sort of, you know, as dry as you can. And then in a second I'm going to pat the other side, the underside meat dry as well. Okay, so next I'm going to lay these out. Is that in? Yeah, that's fine. You want to lay them out as far apart as possible, as long as they're not overlapping. They don't actually have to be, can't speak again today. They don't actually have to be far apart, it's just you don't want them overlapping. So you want to make a jerky puzzle kind of thing. A jerk saw puzzle. I'm sure someone else has made that funny joke before. But yeah. I may only need one shelf this time, I'm not sure. I normally make 3 or 4, but I wanted some of the beef for myself for tea, so, you know, it's just being greedy. It's funny, the last time I did this I hadn't cut the meat as thin, as I pick up one of the thickest pieces I've done, but it resembles a little bit like kebab meat at present. It doesn't smell like it, it smells incredible. Although kebab meat does smell incredible. I mean, very different smells. Now we're definitely going to need 2 shelves, which is good. I always find it sort of cooks better when there's multiple layers cooking. Not better, but more consistent, maybe. Okay, that's 1. Because obviously I'm handling raw meat and this, I'm going to have to clean round the edges of this, but I'll do that later. There's 2 pieces that are silly thick, that one and the other one, and I will leave them in for considerably longer. This will all be done long before those 2 pieces are. I may actually eventually take them out and just cook them a different way because they are really thick. It's so stupid. I shouldn't really have put them through the process, but you know, although I'm greedy and wanted the meat, the other beef to myself, I wanted as much jerky as I could have as well, you see. And all the offcuts I've already eaten. During the time that this was marinating, I cooked up the fat to get that rendered out, and then I had the rest of the little beef bits. I cut them into little cubes and had them as a little lunch for myself. And they were really nice. I think this is the only bit that takes any skill, is trying to lay it out in the most efficient sort of order possible. Okay, there's no point overcrowding it. I'll just put them on another one. Now I'm going to go to the bottom rung again, and I'm going to see if I overcrowded that too much. You'd rather have them out like this with lots of room between them and lots of air going through them than all stuck together and you know, not dehydrating equally. There you go. And now let's get talking about dehydrating times and temperatures. Okay, I'm going to turn this on to 75 degrees C, which is around 165 degrees Fahrenheit. I think is a little bit higher than that. And then I'm just going to keep it going for probably 6 hours, maybe a little bit more. And basically I'm looking for an internal temperature of about 71 degrees C, which is around 160 degrees Fahrenheit, I believe. See you when it's done. Okay, it has been just over 5 hours, maybe about closer to 6 to be honest, and I've checked to make sure that the jerky is of the right consistency, which I'll show you now, but also it's the right temperature, which is around 71-ish degrees C, but it's bendy, and you know it's just got that right consistency that you expect from jerky. Now I've got a clean container which I've put 2 silica gel packs in, and I'm going to plunk these all in. Now one tip I will give you, do not close the lid on this straight away while it's hot, because you will get moisture at the top, and you don't want that. You want that to all just slowly release. And I'm only wearing gloves specifically, so I'm not putting any sort of germs into the container, which I've thoroughly cleaned out, by the way. What I'll do later is I will get some of the pre-packaged bought beef jerky, and I will weigh it, and then I will weigh this, and we can see what the difference is in price, because it will shock you, I'm sure. Okay, I'm just going to plunk the lid on like that. It's got a gap. Oh, you can't really see that there. It's got a gap. I'm just going to leave that until it's cooled off enough anyway. It doesn't have to be cold, but cooled off enough. Oh, and I'll put a couple more of these in. Shouldn't really have done that with my gloves on, but there you go. And I'll be back and we'll do a comparison between price, etc. And we'll go from there. Okay, one thing I'd like to do is weigh this out in grams. And I'll get all of the silica gels out in a second, if I can. So I want to make this as fair as possible. Okay. So it weighs 155 grams what we've made, and now I'm going to work out how much that would have cost to buy in the shops, and we can go from there, because this is the reason you make it yourself. Okay, so let's come clean about this. 150 grams seems awfully light for how much we made, don't you think? And it's because it is. Before I got a chance to weigh anything, I had some. Then my son came down and he wanted to try some, and he quite liked it, so he had some as well. And my wife and daughter tried some, and they had some as well. So we had... it was quite packed when I first did it, and it's not now, basically. So I'm gonna say it was I'll say 225 grams, but I think it was a lot more than that. I think we probably ate half of what was there, and I was like, no, we've got to stop now. And you know what it's like, we didn't. So if we say 225 grams, I think we can be safely well under where we were, but not so far under that, you know, it's going to skew the results. So I wanted to talk to you guys about price and how much, you know, a normal pack would be. So let's have a chat about that now. I have this at home. These guys do some jerky as well, and this here is 25 grams for £1.70. Okay, so let's have a look at all of the sums we did, and we can work out whether we're cheaper or not doing ours. Okay, what I'll do, I'm going to plonk that like that, and I'll plonk that like that, and then we're going to have all our sums up here. So, the Worcestershire sauce for the full bottle is £1.70. The soy sauce for a full bottle is 75 pence. The onion powder and garlic powder are both £1 each. Cayenne pepper is £1. Black pepper is £1.50. So that's all of the seasonings we used. And I would say we used a small amount of each, which equates to 50p, 20p, 10p, 10p, 10p and 10p, which works out to be about £1.10 in our bits and bobs that we actually used to flavour it. And I'm going to say I used half the beef, although I didn't. I used much less than that, and I also cut all the fat off and used that for another dish as well. So we'll say that's £8.60 maximum. If we take this as being 25 grams, we can fit 9 of the, so we've made basically 9 packs of this. So this being £1.70 would have cost us £15.30. However, we've spent just under £10 on our homemade one. Now, this isn't super accurate, and depending on what cuts of beef you buy, you can get the price right down, and what you decide to use, you can keep the price up, down, left, right. But with this, first off, you know how it was made, what it was made with, and you know everything else. And I always find homemade is so much more, there's more of a bite, whereas this stuff is sort of so thin and so nothing there that it's sort of almost like it melts in your mouth, but not in a way that you'd want from a meat. You know, if you're going to have beef melting in your mouth, you want it to be warm and, you know, butter-like. But yeah, so we're quite close to the same sort of price. We've still come in cheaper, but there is lots of ways we can make it cheaper. And this, as in the jerky version of this, is not the most expensive, and it's not the best. And you know, then you've also got things where you can buy this in bulk and get a bit off, etc. But I will always go for homemade if I can, because you know what's in it and you can make as much or as little as you want. Okay, so beef jerky made easy, basically. I hope you enjoyed it. I really appreciate you for watching. I really appreciate my patrons. See you again soon. Bye for now.